Rousseau with a Tail. For more than 30 years, I spent my summers studying savanna baboons in the Serengeti ecosystem in East Africa. I love baboons, but I must admit that they're often violent and abusive, so that the weak suffer at the canines of the strong. Okay, some detachment. They're a highly sexually dimorphic tournament species with extensive escalated aggression and a strong propensity toward frustration displacement, i.e., they can be intensely shitty to one another. In the mid-1980s, the baboon troop adjacent to my study group hit the jackpot. Their territory included a tourist lodge, as at tourist places anywhere in the wilds, it had always been a challenge keeping wildlife from feeding on food garbage. Hidden in a grove of trees far from the lodge was a deep garbage pit surrounded by a fence. But baboons climb fences. Fences get knocked down, gates are left open, and that neighboring troop had taken to foraging daily in the dump. Like another widely dispersed primate, humans, baboons eat almost anything. Fruit, plants, tubers, insects, eggs, prey they've killed, dead things they've scavenged. This transformed the garbage dump troop. Baboons normally descend from their sleeping trees at dawn and walk 10 miles a day foraging. Garbage dumpers slept in trees above the dump, waddled down at 8 o'clock to meet the garbage tractor from the lodge, spend 10 minutes in frenzied competition for discarded roast beef and drumsticks and plum pudding, and then waddle out for a nap. I'd even darted garbage dump animals and studied them with colleagues. They put on weight, thickened with subcutaneous fat, had elevated circulating levels of insulin and triglycerides, had the start of metabolic syndrome. Somehow, baboons in my troop got word of the feasting over the hill, and soon half a dozen would head over each morning to join. It wasn't random who did this, who would try to compete for food against 50 or 60 thems. The ones who tried were male, big, and aggressive. And morning is when baboons do much of their socializing, sitting in contact, grooming, playing, so going for garbage meant foregoing the socializing. The males who went each morning were the most aggressive, least affiliative members of the troop. Not long after, there was a tuberculosis outbreak among the garbage dump baboons. In humans, tuberculosis is a chronic disease, slowly consuming you with consumption. In non-human primates, TB is wildfire, spreading rapidly, killing within weeks. Kenyan wildlife vet colleagues and I identified the cause of the outbreak. The meat inspector at the lodge was being bribed to approve tubercular cows for slaughter. Animals were killed, unsightly lesion-ish organs discarded, and then consumed by baboons. Most of the garbage dump troop died, as did all my males who raided the dump. This was kinda upsetting to me. I habituated a new troop at the other end of the park and wouldn't go anywhere near the remnants of my troop for half a dozen years. Finally, with my soon-to-be wife visiting Kenya for the first time, I worked up the nerve to return to the troop to show her the baboons of my youth. They were unlike any baboon troop documented, exactly like what you'd expect if you eliminated half the adult males, producing a 2-to-1 female-to-male ratio instead of the typical 1-to-1, and if the males remaining were particularly unaggressive and affiliative. They stayed close together, sat in contact, and groomed more than average. Levels of aggression were lower and in an informative way. Males still had dominance hierarchy. Number 3 would still fight with numbers 4 and 2, defending his status and seeking a promotion. But there was minimal displacement aggression onto innocent bystanders. When number 3 lost a fight, he'd rarely terrorize number 10 or a female. Stress hormone levels were low. The neurochemistry of anxiety and benzodiazepines worked differently in these individuals. Here's a measure of it, a picture that, if you're a baboonologist, is more surprising than one showing baboons inventing the wheel. 2 adult males grooming. That hardly ever happens, except in this troop. And now the most important part. Female baboons remain in their birth troop, whereas males get itchy around puberty and leave, trying their luck anywhere from the troop next door to one 30 miles away. By the time I returned to this troop, most of the males who had avoided the TB had died. The troop was filled with males who had transferred in after the TB. In other words, adolescent males had grown up in typical baboon troops and then joined this one and adopted the style of low aggression and high affiliation. The troop's social culture was being transmitted. How? Adolescents who joined the troop were no less aggressive or displacing than those joining other troops. There wasn't self-selection. There was no evidence of social instruction occurring. Instead, the most likely explanation involved resident females. These were probably the least stressed female baboons on Earth, not being subject to typical male displacement aggression. In this more relaxed state, they were more willing to risk affiliative overtures to new individuals. In a typical baboon troop, it is more than 2 months before females first groom or sexually solicit new transfer males. In this troop, it was a matter of days to weeks. Coupled with the lack of displacement aggression from resident males, this caused the new transfer males to gradually change, assimilating into the troop culture in about 6 months. Thus, when treated in a less aggressive, more affiliative manner, adolescent baboons start doing the same. In 1965, a rising star of primatology, Irvin DeVore of Harvard, published the first overview of the subject. Discussing his own specialty, savanna baboons, he wrote that they have acquired an aggressive temperament as a defense against predators, and aggressiveness cannot be turned on and off like a faucet. It is an integral part of the monkey's personalities, so deeply rooted that it makes them potential aggressors in every situation. Thus, savanna baboons became, literally, textbook examples of an aggressive, stratified, male-dominated primate. Yet, as we see here, this picture is not universal or inevitable. Humans have formed both small nomadic bands and megastates and have demonstrated a flexibility whereby uprooted descendants of the former function in the latter. Human mating patterns are atypically flexible, and our societies feature monogamy, polygyny, or polyandry. We have fashioned religions where certain types of violence earn you paradise, and others where the same violence consigns you to hell. Basically, if baboons unexpectedly show this much social plasticity, so can we. Anyone who says that our worst behaviors are inevitable knows too little about primates, including us.